Hello, I'm BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'll be having a closer look at the brand new Tamiya Grumman FM-1 Wildcat / Martlet V. So why has it got two names? Well, that's simply because the Wildcat part is the American name and the Martlet part is the English name. But at the end of it all, towards the end of the war, even England started calling these Wildcats. So let's have a closer look at the box of this. All right, let's look at the box art here. All right, we've got Grumman FM-1 Wildcat. Now these were designated the FM-1 because the production for Wildcats moved from Grumman to General Motors, and they redesignated it as the FM-1. So this is actually, the FM-1 is identical to the F4F Wildcat, and all those that were delivered to England were known as Martlets. And then throughout the war, they changed to finally the Mark V, which is the identical version here. Now this kit comes sometime after this initial release from Tamiya. Now this is the F4F4. Now they're pretty much the same aircraft, but there are differences in mainly the wing. So I will show you the differences a bit later as I get into the full open boxing. Now this particular kit dates back to, when is it? It was here, I had a look at it before. So it's a 1994 kit, but this is part of their newer, I guess you call it generations of kits, where they started retooling a lot of new 48 scale aircraft, and they've put in a lot of nice details, and you'll see that when we go through the common components. But that's what it's based on. But there are quite a number of sprue in here which have been updated for this particular version, and it's nice to have British colours with the invasion stripes on it as well. All right, let's have a look. Now you see the carrier there, because these were carrier-borne aircraft. There's a little arresting hook on the back. And they did have folding wings so they could fit on the aircraft carriers a lot easier. But with the kit, it is in fixed flying format. Okay, so let's have a look here. What have we got? So we've got our sprue. So being a 48 scale aircraft, it is fairly simple. You won't have a lot of sprue in there. Now let's put this aside and we'll look at one at a time. All right, here we go. We've got the fuselage. Now this part of the kit is actually identical to the original kit I showed you just before, because the fuselage sections have not changed at all. The cockpit, all those parts are all the same. And we can see that if I go in a bit tighter. Let's see. If I just spin that around, we'll be able to actually see the code here for the kit. Okay, and that's the 61034. So that's the original sprue, untouched. And actually, since I've got it zoomed in, let's just have a closer look at it. We'll check the fuselage. See how pronounced the rivets are? You can actually feel those across my fingertips. So it's a combination of engraved and protruding rivets. Now this was coming at a time when a lot of people were poo-pooing all of the rivets that were, well, I guess not really rivets, but panel lines which were proud of the surface, because all the earlier kits, that would have been the easiest way to make those. So engraved lines are the way to go. So when you're painting, you can put the panel line wash in there and it'll just fill it in, no problem. But it is also nice to have these protruding rivets. And so I'll wash over those and a light dry brush and they'll all come out really nicely. So as you can see, for a reasonably old kit, it is really, really nice. Okay, so you've got the options here for the antennas for the two versions. That's part of the cockpit. I've got the rear bulkhead there with the head rest there. You can see the texture there for the soft padded area. You got your engine, you see better there, you got your cylinders. Okay, and that overlays the top as well. More of the cockpit, and you've got the instrument panels. Got the cockpit tub. Gearbox for the prop. You've got the, what do you call those? Oh, these will be the foot pedals. And you see on the other side of the fuselage as well. You've got your joystick. Some more controls. See how nicely proud those rivets are right there. You've got a separate rudder. So even though it does have these designed to slot right in, which really helps for alignment, this also helps for getting some extra detail along here. So you've got the gap. If you really wanted to, you could probably trim those off and put that at an angle. And you can just see there, you can see that ribbed detail where the fabric's gone over the framework of the rudder. And then you see this is part of the horizontal stabilizers, where rather than having them split in the center, there's actually one piece and it slots in the back. That also helps for a lot of alignment. Now we've got rear bulkhead, and they've added quite a bit of detail here because with this particular aircraft, the undercarriage sits out and there's quite a bit of void and a lot of detail that can be viewed through the wheel wells. And then on this side we have the propeller. Again, it's all molded in one, so you don't have to worry about the old school methods where you have to glue all these and try to make them all aligned. So a little bit more from cockpit, and then you have the pilot seat. Okay, so there is the fuselage sprue. Now let's look at the wing sprue, and this is all, well, it's not all brand new, but it does have an updated date on it, okay, which we'll find over here. You see that just there, so you see that, 2023 Tamiya. So the parts that are obviously different are the wings. The wings, the bottom part and the top part are different, because even though this aircraft was identical to the F4F, it differs in that this particular version only had 4 guns instead of the 6, because there was another gun over here. And underneath there's different locations for this light here, because I think it was further out on the F4F4. So these parts here and here are all brand new, but they've designed it so that you've got some engraved rivets, which are quite fine, but I can feel some protruding rivets as well, so that complements the fuselage with its proud rivets. Okay, so let's have a closer look here. So these are all brand new machined or tooled parts. So very clean, as we always expect from Tamiya. So this is the open area where you can see quite a lot of stuff. So that's why those bulkheads are quite large, because you'll be able to see those here with the struts coming out. You got some visibility little windows there. There's areas for the drop tanks. So the drop tanks are for the American version. So with these smaller parts all around the edges, these are the same as the original kit. So you got your drop tanks, fittings on the drop tanks there, and then you have your struts for your undercarriage. I quite like the way they've designed this. Even back then, they've designed to have these very large load-bearing points. Some more undercarriage, a few little bits and pieces, and then more undercarriage items here. There's the resting hook right there. Okay, so that's a newly tooled component. So the wings are definitely retooled, the rest of it looks identical. Okay, so what do we have next? This is brand new. We've got a pilot. And it's nice because the new pilots that Tamiya are producing now are really clean and very nicely proportioned. Let's see if I can get that focused a bit better. There we go. Okay, so they use the same pilot for the American version and for the English version. I mean, there are probably going to be slight differences, but once you've got this together, it's probably going to be difficult to tell. The uniform colors are different, so you'll see that in the manual. Different colors are used, and you've got really nice proud details of the seat belts. But if you don't like using pilots, then they do offer you decal seat belts as well. Now if we get to look at the face is really clean, really nice. And you'll be able to see they're the numbers. Oh, I've got that upside down actually, but you've got the year, and then you've got the kit number. Okay, so there's your pilot. And then we've got some clear bits. Clear bits are going to be hard to see, unless, of course, I get my blue mat. Alright, let's get the blue mat out. Alright, some clear bits. Now the clear parts are identical to the original F4, F4. And then we've also got some polycaps. Polycaps will be used for the propeller so I can rotate. So these are the original parts there. They're already really nicely engineered beforehand anyway. Okay, so they're from the original kit, and then you've got some polycaps. And I mean, we all know what polycaps are. It's a soft vinyl type material, and it just holds the shaft in place for the propeller so it can spin. Also allows you to remove the propeller if you want to transport, which makes it a bit safer. Okay, so we've got those. What have we got next? We have some decals, and it's a large sheet of decals. Okay, so there's 3 options you can choose from. You've got 2 American type, and so they're Pacific. Let's pull this out, probably be easier to see. Okay, so here, so they're all Pacific, and then you have your invasion stripes and the British roundels. If we get in tighter, you'll see how many stencils are actually included here. We'll go through the whole lot of it. Okay, you've got a little bit of nose art. Well, you don't really call that nose art, do you? You call that nose or aircraft naming. Now these are not cartograph decals, but your traditional Tamiya decals. But they are matte, so there's no gloss on those at all. Alright, so you got your invasion stripes, and you can see how they have designed it to fit over blisters and such. Alright, so these are roundels. And then over here you'll see all the stenciling. So really fine stenciling, see my finger there. And we have all our instrument detailed here, and there's the seatbelt. Okay, so you can opt to use the seatbelt as it is, just wrap it over the seat, or if you want to add a little bit of thickness, you could probably get the decal mounted on some very, very thin paper, let it dry, cut it out to shape, and then you have a little bit of more body to the seatbelts. So there's a couple of ways of using these. Okay. And then you can see that the orientation or the register of the colors is always really well printed. Yeah, okay. So there are your decals. But what else do you get? You get these, which are your cockpit masks. How good is it? Can't get much better than that. I won't take it out of the plastic bag. We'll try to make it sharper though. There we go. So these are for the front panel and then for the side panel. You can see how it's got a lot of parts, and that can be quite troublesome if you need to mask these out yourself, whether you use masking liquid or use masking tape. There's a lot to trim there, so this definitely makes it a lot easier. Just need to take care when you're fitting them on. Okay, so that's to cover up the little light on the wings, and these are for under the wing for the lower windows on the cockpit. Okay, so they're all the components for the kit. Now we come to a lot of information. So you've got a little bit of a history here. There's different languages. You've got Japanese there, we've got English and German. But it gives you a really good overview of the aircraft itself with some nice images. See it on a carrier right there. So that's very nice, very handy. And then we have these full-size images of the different versions you can do. So this is also the decal guide and paint guide, I guess. So that's A version, so they'll have these marked as A, B or C. A version being English Royal Navy HMS Tracker in Normandy in 1944, so hence the invasion stripes. So this particular version has a very upright antenna mount. And then we come to version B, which is the first of the American carrier ones. Actually, that's North Atlantic. So that's 1944, quite late in the war. And then we have the last version, which is a C version. And this is on the USS Nassau in 1943. So you can see the placement of a lot of the stenciling along the bottom. Quite a few different stencils here. I mean, they're very subtle, but they make a huge difference, and also on the propeller there as well. Okay, so there are your painting and decal guides. This part's pretty standard. This one is a tech tip, so they put that in all their newer kits now. Gives you an idea of how to build a kit with various basic tricks. And then we come to the manual. Okay, let's make sure this is focused really well. I think that's pretty focused. All right, very standard, really nice layout for Tamiya manuals. You always get the paint chart on the front with all the paint codes in Tamiya codes, recommended tools. And then we get right into it. So there's the folding out type, because there aren't a lot of steps. So you need to decide if you want to do A, B or C versions, and as you go through there will be references such as here about how to paint a particular version. So you start off with the fuselage construction, and as I said earlier, I mean, it's not the newest kit, but they have put a lot of thought into the way this is constructed. So you do build the fuselage first, and then the cockpit is mounted inside later. So it gives you a chance to actually not lock in the cockpit as yet. Gives you time to sand down the joins. And then we get into horizontal stabilizer, cockpit construction here. You've got the tub, and then everything goes together. And then you have the front bulkhead with struts for the undercarriage. And then that goes in as a module and is dropped into the fuselage. From there you construct the wings. So you've got the tops going onto the base with a little radiator there. There's a guide here because certain areas are painted different colors. And then there's all the detail on the bottom of the wing. And then we've got mating of the fuselage onto the wings. Engine construction, that goes on a module at the front with the cowling. And then you see the struts for the undercarriage getting assembled here. From that point, you've got the wheels going into the tires. There's some of the undercarriage, what do you call them, doors. Now the drop tanks are only for the American version, so hence you see B or C. And then you have the pilot, and you can see here the pilot is same pilot, but they offer the different codes for the different pilots. Okay, so you got the British pilot here, which is a Navy, oh actually, I'm pointing out the wrong one. Here we go. You got the one here, which is navy blue, and then you have the American pilot, which is predominantly like a buff color. And then you have the pilot going inside with the gun sight. And the instructions of the masking. Definitely helps a lot. And then hints on how to cover it all up. And then you come to final assembly, which is the prop fitting on and the canopy, and then your choice of the antenna mounts. Or posts, I guess. I don't know, there must be a special word, and you also got the rudder going on. Okay, and then you've got a little guide here with how to put on decals. So there we go. So that is my open boxing of the new issue of the Tamiya Wildcat. So there's the FM-1, or otherwise known as the Martlet V, or otherwise known as the, I think the British called it the Wildcat V later in the war. So there you go. So thank you for joining me, and if you'd like to see more content, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. So thank you for watching.